We're joined now by Alan Solomont. Alan is the former finance chair of the Democratic National Committee, Dean Emeritus of Tisch College at Tufts University, former U.S. ambassador to Spain and Andorra, and he was the most prolific fundraiser in America for Barack Obama in that election not so long ago. Alan, good to see you. How are you?
Great. Nice to see you, Jim. Nice to see you,
Yeah,
Marjorie.
thank you so much for joining us, Alan. So let's start with the question that I think a lot of Americans are asking. Does Kamala Harris get Biden's stash of money or not?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Well,
Uh,
wait. You're an authority on this, but the current chair of the Federal Election Commission, who's a Trump appointee, was on NPR this morning and intimated that there's likely to be a challenge, and even if you believe the challenge will not go anywhere, would that hold up the transfer of these millions and millions of dollars to the Harris campaign?
Um, Not being a lawyer, I can't say for absolute certainty, although we've been talking about this for some time in terms of what would happen if. One of the practical reasons why it makes sense for the vice president to head the ticket, although not the only reason by any means, is that she would be the one person who would be able to use the money because she was on the ticket and the money was given to the ticket. Having said that, I will also report that in the last 24 hours, the last time I checked, $55 million had been contributed to the Harris campaign. I don't even think they've changed the name, but people were giving money because Kamala Harris had been endorsed by President Biden and seems to be the likely nominee. And so I think that the resources will be there. I'm not surprised that there's mischief afoot by a Republican appointee to the FEC, but I don't think at the end of the day that will go anywhere.
well, Alan Solomon, you are a prodigious fundraiser, as Jim just said. But one of the reasons we presume that Biden was convinced to drop out of the race was money problems that he was having. A story in Bloomberg about how Biden's campaign burned through 93% of the money it raised in June. So, how big of a deal were his money problems?
I don't think that was the key issue at all. First of all, let me just say at the outset that I think Joe Biden was the most consequential and accomplished public servant and political leader of my lifetime, which means of all of our lifetimes. And in typical fashion, at the end of the day, Joe Biden put country first before his own personal interests, not something we're likely to see by the former president. And I think the issue was simply that the conversation, the election, unfortunately, was all about Joe Biden's age and his health, and not about the danger that a Trump-Vance administration poses to our democracy, to our personal liberties, to our place in the world. And so it was really important to change the conversation. I think this was really the reason why it seemed as though Joe Biden wasn't going to be able to win, because that was going to be the issue all along. I'm a big believer that elections are always about something. I think the election in '08 was about change. The election in '04 was about national security. This election has got to be about the existential threat to our democracy and to democracy around the world, posed by the possibility of Donald Trump returning to the White House.
You know, Alan, Margie and I were both talking the other day about bumping into you at a high school in New Hampshire during a primary when this senator from Illinois was running. And I remember turning to you and saying, do you really think a black guy can get elected in this country? And I remember your answer, and you proved to be right, and my concerns proved not to be. We've been asking today, is America ready, or American voters ready for a black and Asian woman? But the question for you is not that. Is are big money donors ready for a black and Asian woman president? Are they?
Absolutely. And by the way, big money donors don't necessarily dominate the fundraising scene. Things have changed, and certainly there is money much bigger than was the case when I was first cutting my teeth in this business. But the ability to raise money, from people who give $5 and $10 and $25 in small amounts. I mean, that's the bulk of the money that's come in the last 24 hours, and that's $55 million counting. So I think, and by the way, I was hearing even before the decision, let me know as soon as some people said, let me know as soon as Kamala is the nominee and I want to contribute. But even since that, I must have heard from a dozen people that I am in touch with around town in terms of generous donors, all of whom are either sending their contributions in now or are sitting and waiting for the right moment to do that. So I think Kamala Harris her campaign will be well resourced, and by people who will welcome the possibility of the first Black woman in the Oval Office, and the first woman in the Oval Office, which is something long overdue, which America has been, I think, hoping for. Let me say one other thing about the financial situation. One of the strengths of the Biden campaign to date, is the really extensive field operation that it had built. There are over 1,500 staff members on the ground in the 7 battleground states, in over nearly 300 offices. And those, then they will be organizing an army of volunteers of thousands to go out and talk, to voters, to young voters, to Black voters, to voters who voted for Donald Trump in 2020. That's one of the strengths of the campaign, is the ability to talk directly to the voters in a personal way, and to motivate them, because they will need motivating, and that will cost a lot of money. What I read recently is Donald Trump is going to spend a lot of his money on voter protection, which might be also translate into voter interference. But I think it's, the reason the money is so important in the Harris campaign is really to support this army that's been put out in the field. That's how Barack Obama, by the way, won in 2008. That's how Kamala Harris will win in 2024.
Well, again, can I just interrupt to say, I also think it's important because while she did run for president unsuccessfully, and she has been vice president for 3.5 years, the vast majority of people know virtually nothing about her.
Yeah,
and it seems to me
campaign.
she's got to do a lot of introducing in the next several months, not to mention in the next 3 weeks leading up to the convention, no?
She does, and she'll be out there. She's already been out there, the first thing she said was she wants to earn this nomination.
Right.
I mean, frankly, the other possibilities have been, falling in line and endorsing her, because I think Democrats have to realize that we need to take something from the Republican playbook, and that's called unity and discipline.
Yeah.
We're not known for that, let's face it. But I believe that the specter of Donald Trump's return to the White House is so frightening and so threatening to Americans, not just to Democrats, but to independents and to Republicans who recall what it was like from 16 to 20, that we're going to see Democrats copy that playbook and show some unity and discipline, both between now and the run up to the convention, but certainly after the convention.
We're talking Alan Solomont, former treasurer of the Democratic National Committee.
Alan, correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't want to mislead anybody, but you said that money was not a big reason for Biden to withdraw. And what I read, and again, maybe I'm wrong, is that part of the problem was that some donors thought that the money that he was losing, so they were concentrating on the down ticket races, the legislatures, governors, and senators, in hope of holding on to the House and the Senate. And that's one of the things that I think the people around him were concerned about. Am I mistaken in that notion?
No, that was one of the things. I don't think that was the main thing, but there's no question. Another great American who ran for president named Dick Gebhardt used to say that people don't lose presidential elections. They run out of money.
Okay.
And there was that danger. There was certainly adequate money now, but there was the danger that people who didn't believe that this election was going to focus on Donald Trump, but that it was going to keep
Focus
focused.
on the age and the health. Yeah.
That was not a winning strategy
Okay.
or operation. And so there was, the donor community, was really concerned about that.
I have one last question. You're emeritus at Tufts now, but you have done a lot of work over there. I'm sure you know a lot of kids that are still there, young people that are studying government. My experience just happened on the weekend to be at a place with a lot of people, young people that were in their 20s and 30s, thrilled. There was an excitement. It's like a cloud had been lifted. Not that they didn't respect what Joe Biden had done and recognize his decency and all that, but it's like I said, dark cloud gone. What was your sense?
Well, first of all, Kamala Harris is not going to be able to win this election without young people
Yeah.
showing up. And if they show up, they will vote for her. I mean, they've shown in the last few cycles that they are voting overwhelmingly for Democrats. Joe Biden carried young voters, 18 to 29-year-olds, by 30 points. Barack Obama carried them 66-33.
Wow.
Yeah. In 2018, young voters favored Democrats running for the House by 35 points, and that's what put Nancy Pelosi into the speakers. I could go on with the data. I'll bore you to tears, but and there was a real problem that the young people, were concerned about Joe Biden, and I do think that I think there is this cloud lifted, and with no disrespect to Joe Biden, who I said at the outset is the most consequential president and leader of our lifetime, and that's comparing him to other great Democrats that I've supported, named Barack Obama or Bill Clinton. But I do believe that young people are going to respond to the issues that Kamala Harris will bring to the table: the issue of choice, the issue of gun violence, the issue of climate, and for that matter, the issue of the economy and what their record has done to position the economy so that young Americans can look forward to a more prosperous future, which has been a real concern of theirs. There's no question. So, and then I think we'll see who the vice presidential pick will be. But if you want me to venture an
Oh,
opinion,
yes, please do.
Who is it?
well, there are some really great names being talked about. Andy Beshear, Josh Shapiro, Roy Cooper. But there's a senator from Arizona, first of all, who knows as much about who with his wife knows as much about political violence as anyone at this moment, who's been a strong advocate for gun safety, who's an astronaut, a veteran, and a patriot, who's a moderate Democrat, a white guy, and who's the U.S. Senator from Arizona. His name is Mark Kelly.
Yeah.
And this is going to be settled way above my pay grade, but I think he would add enormously to this ticket. He's got a nice following in Massachusetts, by the way. And I think that the issue of gun violence, which has been on the minds of young voters who have been in classrooms in high school, doing, live shooter exercises. And also there are 8 million new voters. Well, there's 16 million new voters since 2020. There are 8 million new voters since 2022 who weren't eligible to vote before, who are now just beginning to be eligible. And I think that they're going to be a powerful force for Kamala Harris or the Harris Kelly ticket or the Harris whatever. But that's just the opinion of one guy here, and we'll see how that plays out.